You're listening to Wisdom of the Ages, the show that taps into the many expressions of universal, ancestral, and personal wisdom to ignite evolutionary consciousness.
I hope you are having a beautiful day. This is Anne-Kate Sullivan, one of the Superpower Up hosts, and you are listening to Wisdom of the Ages. So I was realizing on the way to the recording studio today how important it was for me many years ago to make the connection between my health and medicine and the divine. We think of these things as separate, but really they're not. They're very, very connected. So today we're going to explore the science behind true medicine for the body, mind, and spirit. And I'd like to begin with a wisdom quote by Dr. Mitch Fleisher. All true healing is self-healing, and the true physician heals not only with their hands, but with their heart to support self-healing. So I'd like to introduce one of my very favorite people on the planet. He's a true reservoir of wisdom. Dr. Mitch Fleisher is an MD with over 40 years of clinical experience. He is a double board certified family physician specializing in anti-aging and regenerative medicine, homeopathy, nutritional and botanical medicine, peptide therapy, chelation and biooxidative therapy, and natural hormone replacement therapy. That's quite a lot, but there's a lot to this man. He attended Stanford University School of Medicine and the Medical College of Virginia. I'm particularly impressed with his alternative Dr. M-Care natural medical self-care protocols. And that's a long way of saying you can go online and check him out. And I think there are about 200 protocols you can look up if you have issues you're dealing with. So I'm excited to introduce you to Mitch Fleisher. We're going to explore true medicine for the body, mind, and spirit. So Dr. Mitch Fleisher, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, Sister Anne. Very good to speak to you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm always thankful to speak to you. So let's just start. So Dr. Mitch Fleisher, what is the true medicine for the body, mind, and spirit?
Well, Anne, true medicine involves healing of the entire human being. You can't just treat one part and expect to get a wholeness. So when a physician looks at all the symptoms in the body, all the symptoms in the mind, and all the symptoms on the emotional, mental, spiritual levels, then they're seeing the whole person. And we want to use a panoply, a whole bunch of different therapies that are suited to the unique patient. So true medicine also needs to be individualized. That is, there's no cookbook approach. You have to look at each person and the uniqueness of that person and all the symptoms and the physical, mental, and emotional levels. And when you understand that whole of that person, then you know what therapies to apply uniquely to them to stimulate their own body's ability to heal itself.
So that sounds really different than, oh, you have diabetes, so therefore you need insulin. So suddenly this changes and we're treating the entire person.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because, of course, you do with someone there's different kinds of diabetes, but if you have a particular ailment, of course you want to give the body what it needs to restore balance. And in diabetes, they may be lacking insulin, the ability like type 1, or they may just be in a state where their insulin isn't working, so you need to use other things to help them. So you have to find out what's uniquely going on with a given individual and then provide them the healing tools that they need to restore their overall health and well-being. The ultimate goal of healing, of true medicine, is freedom from limitation in the physical, mental, and emotional parts of our being. That's the idea, so that all of us is free to be able to experience life to the fullest.
That's beautiful. I love that statement. We have to be free somehow in our physical self and our emotional self and our psychological self, and somehow also tapped into our spiritual self too, it seems. So, I mean, would you say that there's a spiritual component to medicine?
Absolutely. This has been recognized by native healers and different systems of medicine for thousands of years, like in Ayurvedic medicine, which is the oldest system of medicine in the world. That's Ayurveda means the way of health, been around for over 6,000 years. They understood that in order to bring someone into balance, you had to provide appropriate nutrition and exercise and things of that nature to support the physical body, which is the temple of the spirit. You had to have certain emotional practices that opened your heart to others, into the world, and to yourself, to express yourself. But you also had to deal with the spiritual and to have a connection to the divine. True healing of the self involves nourishing all the levels of our being. That is nourishment for the physical body, nourishment for the emotional body, nourishment for the mental body, and for the spiritual body. And then the whole person is nourished and can maintain balance and health and well-being. This is critically important, and that's why you have this whole new field called integrative medicine, where we're looking at the physical and mental, emotional, and spiritual, and how to understand the whole person, given in a given individual case, and then provide them what they need to restore balance and health.
I'm just loving this. I'm hearing words from a doctor such as nurturing, spirituality, self-care, uniqueness. This is just really beautiful.
Well, it comes to personal experience. I mean, going through a lot of healing myself, I first got introduced to a holistic approach to medicine when I was like 17, when my girlfriend at the time gave me a book by a naturopathic physician, was on a naturopathic herbal medicine, and it just blew my mind that there was so much to it. I came up from a family of physicians. My grandfather, both uncles, were doctors. My great-great-grandfather was a physician to the Tsar of Russia, one of the only Jewish physicians in Russia, and so I came from that history, and I recognized that at an early age that there was more than just conventional allopathic pharmaceutical medicine. That was just one small segment of this large spectrum of healing out there, from herbal medicine, naturopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathic medicine, what have you. And so in order to truly heal and understand someone, you had to understand all aspects of their being, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and how it all tied together, because we are, in essence, one of my favorite authors, Dwayne Dwyer, has a wonderful quote that we're not just physical beings having an occasional spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's true, especially from the integrative, holistic, homeopathic perspective. We see beautiful. Everything as a continuum.
That's so beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Can you tell people where they can get in touch with you? What's your website?
My website, it's an easy one to remember. It's www.cirm1.org. That's www.cirm1.org. And it'll just give you an idea of who we are, what we do, and the services that we offer that provide this sort of triad of care, of body, mind, and spirit.
That's fantastic. So we're going to take a little break right here, and then we're going to come back and speak about, I think I'd love to speak about homeopathic medicine and some of these other tools that you have to share with us.
Sure.
So let's take a 10-second break, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Dawn Rekla, Executive Director of Superpower Experts, and we want to thank each of you for making Superpower Up the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth. Because people like you have the courage to say that mindfulness, healthy living, disrupting reality, the pursuit of consciousness, responsible entrepreneurship, and radical parenting matter, we now amass over 1 million downloads monthly in more than 90 countries. Our numbers keep growing because there are far more people willing to live divergently than mass media wants to acknowledge. For you, the change makers, the light bearers, the way showers, we say thank you. If you're ready to take the next step in your evolution, go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz. And as Neva Lee Rekla, our youngest podcaster, likes to remind us, remember, we all have superpowers and we can change the world.
So we're back. You're listening to Wisdom of the Ages podcast with Superpower Up host Ann Kate Sullivan. This is a show that taps into the many expressions of universal, ancestral, and personal wisdom to ignite evolutionary consciousness. So you can find out more about the show on wisdomoftheages.superpowerexperts.com. And today we're talking with brilliant guest, Dr. Mitch Fleisher. So welcome.
Thank you, Ann. God bless you.
So I'm really excited to continue exploring tree medicine for the body, mind, and spirit. So what is the wisdom that you would like to share with us today?
Well, essentially, what people need to understand is that all true healing is self-healing. We have in us an innate healing mechanism, a God-given innate healing mechanism, which unites the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's one continuum. And in order to support that process, we need to raise our consciousness, take responsibility for ourselves, and then seek out help from those who understand how to heal the entire body, the body, mind, and spirit together. That's what true healing really is.
That's just, it just blows my mind that how did we at some point disconnect healing, consciousness, and medicine? What happened there?
Well, that's a very complex story, but it comes down to power and money and politics, especially in the United States, because systems of healing like homeopathy, naturopathy are practiced worldwide. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of homeopathic practitioners, naturopathic practitioners throughout the world, and tens of millions of homeopathic patients that benefit from these wonderful therapeutic tools. It's basically just in the United States where the multinational pharmaceutical industry, or we call Big Pharma for short, has really taken over control of the political system. And that basically writes the laws that our politicians then put into effect that limit what doctors can do and what the media can say to the public about their own self-healing. There's a lot of misinformation about there what true healing is, as if you have to take a pill or a shot or have something cut and poisoned in order to heal it. That's not true healing, unfortunately.
So we need to be really proactive, I assume.
Absolutely.
Do our research, go on your website, look at your 200 protocols. Can you tell us something about those protocols? If we have an issue and we want to look something up, how would we do that on your website?
All right. Well, that I put together the alternative Dr. M Care natural medical self-care protocols at the behest of my patients. Actually, it's sort of the result of thousands of hours of work writing up the protocols that explain how to use nutritional medicine and nutraceuticals that are nutritional and pharmaceutical agents, homeopathy, and other self-care measures to take care of yourself so you don't have to wind up going to an emergency room unnecessarily or use toxic approaches. It gives you self-empowerment. And I did this at the behest of my patients who were asking, what can we do for our uncles and cousins and aunts and uncles and friends out there in the other parts of the world who couldn't necessarily come all the way to Virginia to see me. And so I put this together originally as a book, but the information I found changes so often that friends helped me to put it into an ebook where I can then update it on a regular basis. So there's over 220 or so protocols for everything you can imagine, from acne to migraines to bowel symptoms and muscle aches, everything you can imagine that fits the wide spectrum of basically holistic family medicine. Wow. And you can access it at www.alternative.drmcare.com, which is ALTERNATIVE.DRM, like Dr. Mitch, DRM, care, CARE.com. And they just go in there and register, and they have access 24/7 to all these protocols and the way I designed it was that it was like an educational tool. it not only tells you what, you can go in there and see the protocol list. You can scroll down and see what problem is going on with you or your family, open it up, and it gives you an education about what exact supplement is effective, the name of it, what dosage range is the most effective one, a range that I found in clinical practice to be the most therapeutic and helpful, and then explains what it is and how it works, so you're understanding. And then you scroll down and you'll see a whole section called Additional Self-Care, where I teach you other naturopathic and natural means by which to heal the issue that's going on. So it's basically, it's support for self-healing, to give you autonomy in the healing process for yourself and your family, and to give you some powerful tools to bring about health and well-being. And then you can always use this in conjunction with your more open-minded healer and physician.
Or they can call you too, right? You work over the phone, I understand?
Yeah. We at a matter of necessity, we do phone consultations all over the world. I've seen people in South Africa, Korea, Paris, whatnot. We just realized there's very few physicians trained like myself in the United States, especially. And so we provide care for family, friends, and relatives everywhere in the world, and fitting into our schedule to try to meet their needs. And they can access the website 24/7 whenever they need it. And then they can get more comprehensive care either directly in person or by a phone consultation.
It's great that so much information that people can trust is available. I think it's a great thing for the planet. I know I like to use it. And so thank you for putting that together.
My pleasure.
There's a question. I'd really like to go into homeopathy because I lived in Britain for a while, and homeopathy is more part of that culture. But when I came back to the United States, people don't know it as well. And I know you use it incredibly effectively. And could you tell us just more about homeopathy, where it's from, who Hahnemann is, just some of these things?
Sure. Well, the principles underlying homeopathic medicine actually are very ancient. The original principles came out of Ayurvedic medicine over 6,000 years ago. And that is that there's three basic ways to heal. And you can heal by giving substances that stimulate the body to heal itself. That's the principle of like cures like. You can give medicines that will suppress a process to give time for the body to try to take care of itself. That is the principle underlying most conventional medicine, although it's not curative, but it can give you a time to take care of it in other ways. And then the third major principle is you heal by divine connection, by spirit. This has been known for a long time. The term homeopathy comes from the Greek words homeos, pathos, which means similar suffering. So homeopathy is based on a fundamental law of healing called the law of similars, or similia similibus curantur, let likes be cured by likes. And what's understood is that a medicinal substance that can create a certain set of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual symptoms in a person during an experimental trial where they're given that substance in a potentized form. All that information is collected, and then that information can then be used to prescribe that specific medicine to another individual who has very similar symptoms physically and mentally, emotionally. And what the remedy does, the correctly prescribed remedy, which is called the true simillimum or most similar remedy, acts as a bioenergetic, not biochemical, but a bioenergetic stimulus or catalyst to give the God-given innate defense mechanism of that individual the energy and information to do what their own defense mechanism would have done to begin with if they had that energy information. It's like kickstarting your own healing engine so that the mind, body, and spirit come into balance.
That's
and
wonderful.
The way I like to think of it is that, homeopathic medicines are essentially, they're made by a special pharmaceutical process of serial dilution and succussion. And what they're essentially doing is extracting and concentrating and purifying the electromagnetic imprint or the energetic imprint of the original material substance such that it can be used by the law of similars to stimulate someone's own innate healing mechanism, their own healing power. So homeopathy, I like to think of it, and I think Hahnemann felt the same way, in my opinion, that homeopathic remedies are actually they're actually the spark of God consciousness in each substance, that's innate in each substance. And the homeopathic pharmaceutical process just extracts and purifies and concentrates that so a physician can apply it according to the law of similars. And when it's well prescribed and it touches the target, the core of someone's being, then that energy radiates out through them and restores balance. One of the images that I found very helpful to understand this is that imagine you have this clear mountain pond, and you look into that pond, you can see all this turmoil beneath the surface. And what you want to do is find the perfect pearl to throw into the water. And when that pearl hits, like that's the remedy, it creates waves on the surface of the water. Well, over time, those waves take over the entire pond and bring it into a nice synchronicity and a balance. And that balance restores health and well-being. That's the idea, the visual image of the idea of the homeopathic remedy. You find the perfect pearl to throw into this core of your being, to stimulate it, to recognize the way in which it's out of balance, to restore that energetic balance in body, mind, and spirit. And then health and well-being are a natural outcome.
I just love this idea of finding your precious pearl. It's incredibly beautiful because it's also true. And I think I heard this story about Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who I believe was the founder of homeopathy, and that he would go into insane asylums, mental institutions, and then listen to the stories of patients and feed their story back to them. And he had quite astounding results. Do you know about this? That's
true. Dr. Samuel Christian Hahnemann, he in the beginning of his career in the late 1700s, early 1800s, you have to understand that mental institutions and asylums back in those days in Europe were pretty horrible places where they threw people that were just having psychoses or even bad neuroses, and they would lock them up and string them up on the wall and try to drown them and
shock treatments.
They were trying to drive the evil spirits out of them. It wasn't quite working. So Hahnemann, he wrote about this in his famous text on chronic diseases. I explained this. And he would go into an institution and sit in a room with a patient or a client and just let them talk the whole story. And he would just listen intently without interrupting them and let them express their delusions and beliefs and whatever it was. And he didn't label them or criticize them or tell them they were crazy, nothing. He just listened to the whole story, understood it deeply, and then he would recant the story back to them in such a way that they saw their own experience, physically, mentally, and emotionally, related back to them. And he recorded the effects of doing that, which a process that he called homeopsychotherapy, and where he fed back the underlying energy of their story back to them. He fed back the delusions, the physical symptoms, everything together as a whole. So they got almost like a dose of the right remedy. And he recorded that many of these people with whom he did that were able to pull themselves together and get out of the asylum because they regained normality.
That's amazing. I mean, so do you think, I don't want to generalize too much here because everyone is very unique. I understand that part. Mm-hmm. But let's say someone is having some sort of psychosis or hideous depression or something that's making them feel twisted or not quite who they are. This can also be used as a holistic treatment of kind of instead of going to your normal psychiatrist, you could go to a homeopath and actually be treated quite differently?
Very differently. And I've treated many, many people with severe neuroses and psychoses and ADD and autism, the full spectrum of disorders. And, an individual, when they're out of balance, it's not just in the mind. It's not just in the emotions. It's not just in the body. It's a continuum. So you have to look at the whole person. And when someone goes to a well-trained homeopathic practitioner, a physician, they will take a very deep case. They look at all the physical symptoms, the unique way in which you experience that symptom, what the exact sensations of the physical symptom are, what makes it worse, what makes it better, the unique way in which a given individual experiences that physical symptom, different than maybe 100 other people or 1,000 other people with the same diagnosis. And then if you have that information, you look at all the emotional body symptoms. What kind of worries, anxieties, fears, depressions, griefs, shame, whatever they have that's molded them throughout their whole life and the way they experience life emotionally, internally and externally. Once that's understood, you look at the mental body, like what kind of beliefs do they have or disbeliefs, dreams, daydreams, delusions, and all the way they think or don't think. And then so you take all the physical symptoms, all the emotional symptoms, and all the mental symptoms, and then you look at the nexus or the crossroads of all the physical, mental, emotional symptomology. And then that constellation of symptoms that describes a person holistically, physically, mentally, emotionally, is then analyzed. And all that information is compared to all the homeopathic literature about different remedies. And we want to find the one remedy that matches that constellation of symptoms unique to that individual most similarly. And that's what we call the true constitutional simillimum or most similar remedy. And then again, that remedy, when given to the person in the right potency or the right energy dose, will act as a bioenergetic stimulus to give your God-given innate defense mechanism the energy and information it needs to bring about balance again. It's like kickstarting their own healing engine. And I've seen this thousands of times in my practice, both in acute cases, like with the ear infections or bee bites or what have you, or fractures, to very serious diseases, whether it's autoimmune illnesses, which homeopathy works phenomenally, or helping people who are suffering from different kinds of cancer, or digestive illnesses, or allergies, what have you. I have just seen the whole spectrum of illnesses as a holistic family physician, and have seen amazing results with homeopathy. Especially when someone's out of touch with themselves, or a lot of people complain of being detached and in their anxiety or depression and not knowing where their pain is coming from. A good homeopathic interview will give someone insight into how their physical, mental, emotional symptoms are connected and are related. It's one continuum. Because the physical body is really the most highly condensed energy. Imagine, solid energy. Then the emotional body is a little bit more rarefied. The mental is more rarefied, and the spiritual is the most rarefied. So, but it's not separate. They're one continuum. It's a spectrum of symptomology in physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So when you take that whole spectrum into account and you understand the whole person, then you can find the precise energetic remedy that brings them back into balance and health.
So our readers or our listeners actually can follow you. Could you just give maybe one case study, something that was remarkable?
Oh, sure. Let's see. Like, for example, I remember one when I was working in a family practice clinic. My office was by the back door, the emergency exit, and one of the nurses brought in their 5-year-old who had just been bitten by lots and lots of yellow jackets, and she was covered in hives, those urticaria, or these red, itchy, pinkish blotches all over her body. She wasn't wheezing, but she was clearly miserable. And the nurse was standing outside my door speaking to one of the other nurses, and the little girl came in to my office and was standing out of the door, and I noticed that there was the sunshine was coming in brightly through the back, the emergency room door, and so she was trying to get away from it, and she was standing in the shadow of my door, and to avoid it. So I just asked her, "Does the sunshine, the heat of the sunshine bother you?" And she shook her head yes, and said, "What would make me feel better? Do something cool on it and feel better?" And she said yes. So taking those symptoms, hives, worse from the heat of the sun, better from something cool, and the fact that her hives look like these pink, puffy, swollen blotches, which is characteristic of what a bee venom will do, I went to my homeopathic cabinet and I got a remedy called Apis mellifica, which is a homeopathic remedy prepared from the venom from honeybees. And I took a high potency, a 1M potency, which the higher the potency in homeopathy, the more pure the energy, the more concentrated and pure it is. And it works, if you prescribe it accurately, it will work more quickly. They have all kinds of potencies. Low potency is 6C, 12C, 30C, 200, 1M. But the more precise your case is, the more sure you are of the remedy, you can give a higher potency in an acute case and get you a much quicker effect. So I went to the cabinet, I got the remedy, and fortunately they come impregnated on lactose pilulus, so they're sweet, so they're easy to give to children. And I said, try some of these, you put it on our tongue. And I just sat back and start doing my work again. And over the course of 5 minutes, while the nurse was speaking to the other nurse outside, you could see her hives just start disappearing from her head going down her face, down her trunk, and down her arms. And then you could see how she was just relaxed. The worry in her eyes went away, and she just relaxed. By the time her mom came into the room to get her to go get a epinephrine and Benadryl treatment, the hives was gone. And she said, "What did you do?" I said, "I just gave her a remedy." And
wow.
The reason that works is because bee venom is a very common cause of hive reaction. And it has the specific symptoms of creating these pink puffy blotches that are almost like a watery puffiness. And it tends to be itchy, and she was scratching herself. And it's much worse by heat and much better by cool. That's the characteristic homeopathic symptoms that individualizes the remedy. And just by following that acute symptomology, I was able to prescribe a remedy that then cured it, and she didn't need any Benadryl or epinephrine.
That's amazing.
That was a simple case. I mean, I just did that by observation.
I'm sure you've had many, many complex ones, and you're going to have to come back on the show and tell us about some other case studies. And
Sure.
We're starting to run out of time, but do you want to just mention some of the other tools that you use to heal people? I know you have so many.
Sure. Well, I found that in the Bible of homeopathy, called the Organon of Medicine, written by Hieronymus Sullivan, in the fourth aphorism or paragraph, he said that you have to eliminate anecdotal things that block the path to cure. And so I've incorporated nutritional therapy to help people detoxify and support their immune system and their overall healing process, and help them wean off of different allopathic conventional medications that have all kinds of adverse effects. So I give them other tools to use. I use this phenomenal new field of medicine called peptide therapy, which are human proteins that, like insulin and things of that nature, but they're different. There's over 7,000 of them, 60 we have available to us now, that stimulate the body's ability to heal on a physical level in ways that drugs can't. I use special natural hormonal remedies if their system needs it, detoxification approaches. We use a wide range of integrative approaches in our medical center to give the person what they need, rather than trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. First, I find out what is the core issue going on with the individual. We want to get at the root cause. We don't want to just treat the symptoms. We want to get the root cause of why that person is out of balance or ill. Once we understand that through careful analysis, through laboratory work, through questioning history, then I will apply the remedies that they need to recover, whether it's homeopathy, nutritional therapy, peptide therapy, IV nutritional therapy, chelation therapy, detoxification. Regardless, we suit the therapy to the person rather than vice versa. And we find we get excellent results in that regard.
That's amazing. Do you have any books? Have you written any books people can read?
Sure. Well, the Alternative Dr. M. Care Natural Medical Self-Care Protocols is a renewing book. That is, it's a protocol web portal where you go in and for one lifetime fee of $97, you have 24/7 access worldwide to all these protocols that teach you different nutritional, naturopathic, homeopathic approaches for self-care for a wide range of conditions. It gives you a real education in how to take care of yourself and your family. And I also have written a book that was basically for healthcare professionals on how to use different supplements, and you can access through the website alternativedrmcare.com. And that's www.al TERNATIVE, DRM, like Dr. Mitch, care.com. And you can get all that information and also contact me through that if you want to. And if you have other questions and really need more support, you can reach us through our website, www.cirm1.org, which is CIRM1.org. And we're happy to help you.
That's really so beautiful and so helpful. And I know I'll be looking on the website and giving you a call too. So I love to conclude our shows with the practice for the listeners, something that really just helps them with their lives. So is there something that can help us align our body, mind, spirit that you would like to share?
Sure. I've been practicing Qigong and Tai Chi since I was about 17 years old. So it's a long time now. And I found that, we're living in an increasingly toxic and stressful world, unfortunately. It's not getting any easier. So I find that there's certain Qigong breathing exercises that are really helpful in getting us centered again. Like we're having difficulty focusing, or we're feeling nervous or anxious about something, event that's going to happen in our life or just in the moment. There's a very simple exercise that you can do that is really centering. And what's very interesting about it is that this technique actually releases in your body certain natural chemicals called endorphins and enkephalins that relax your mind and relax your body and can actually help relieve emotional and physical pain if you practice it correctly, which is fairly easy. And it goes like this. If you just close your eyes for a moment and just allow your eyes to look up to the center of your forehead and just touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth behind the top of your teeth. And then what you want to do is imagine that there's a little ball of any color you like. Mostly in Qigong, we use a little red ball at the very bottom of your pelvis, of the bottom, like between the base of your pelvis by your lower legs. And what you're going to do is take a very slow, deep breath, very slow, letting your belly push out like a balloon. And as you're breathing in, you imagine that ball is rising up as you're breathing in. And when you reach the apex, the top of your breath, it's the very top of your head. And then as you gradually let the air out, very slowly, the little ball, red ball, or any color you want, gradually sinks back down to that same place on the bottom of your pelvis, the perineum. But a very slow breath in and slowly out. Filling your lungs with life-giving air. Feeling that energy move throughout your torso, through your limbs, to the top of your hair, your ears and your eyes, and your lips, and down your body, to your fingertips and toes. Letting all the stress release from you so that you become naturally centered and calm, which is your divine heritage. Breathing in, raising the ball again, the top of your head, very slowly, ever so slowly, and back down again. Works for me every time.
I'm feeling very relaxed right now. I'm very aligned and attuned. So, gosh, thank you so much for teaching us about true medicine. And I hope you'll come back on and talk with us again.
My pleasure, Anne. I'd be more than happy to.
Okay.
There's so much to share.
Yes, there is. There's so much to learn too. So anyway, I know you're a great reservoir of wisdom, and I really appreciate you. So thank you so much for being on our show. And gosh, thank you to everyone who's listening right now. So you've been listening to Anne Kate Sullivan, host of Wisdom of the Ages, and you can look at my books, Reserve a Private Session, or find out more about Infinite Light Publishing by visiting AnneKateSullivan.com. So Until we meet again, may wisdom reveal its secrets to you, one message at a time.
Namaste.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the superpower quiz today.